Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss power with you and the different types of power that there are. Now, different theorists, of course, have different approaches to power. We're going to look at firstly uh, the most famous kind of theorists on power, and that was French Ravensworth from 1959, and they looked at the different power that exists, and they kind of pretty much broke it down to a number of different types. The first type of power is something called reverent power, and that is when you there is someone in a leadership role that actually you look up to, you respect them, so you actually you like them, and so therefore they have some kind of power over you. So it may be, for example, it might be a teacher who you like. Therefore, you're more likely to listen to them and do what they say. It could be a family member. It could be a numerous people, but it's people who you actually like. You actually have some kind of affinity to, so you tend to trust them and their views. So that's called reverent power. And if you think about your at work where you actually work, there'll be some people that you actually do just like, and so therefore you tend to respect their views and to listen to what they have to say. Another type of power of expert power. And expert power is when you believe someone is an expert in that subject area and therefore they know what they're talking about. So for example, you might listen to what I have to say because I have a PhD or has been lecturing for many, many years. Or you might listen to, for example, your manager because they have a lot of experience in management, and so therefore they have some kind of power, expert power. When you take your car to the garage to be fixed, you hope that actually that they know what they're talking about. So they'll look at your engine and they'll say, right, it needs this, it needs that, and you believe them. Whether you should or not is quite another thing, but you believe them because you believe they are an expert within that field. So that is expert power. Another type of power is legitimate power, and that was when someone has a certain amount of power because of their status, the actual job they do. So it's not that they have evolved that leadership. The leadership comes with that actual position. So it might be, for example, you have a head of department or you are a head of department, that you were appointed a head of department, therefore you get amount of power that comes with that role. So deans, heads of schools, lecturers, heads of different bodies, head of HRM, whatever it might be, they have the power that comes within that role. And therefore they might have power over their subordinates or their colleagues because of that. Another type of power is reward power. So those who have the power to reward you for what you have done. So it might be, for example, bonuses. It might be that they can award you more days off. They might be able to, for example, give you, I don't know, take you out for a meal or give you free holidays or give you other kind of bonuses. But those bonuses, the person who controls those and who they are given to have what is called reward power. And the other type of power is coercive power. And this, of course, is one of those powers that can lead to unethical behaviour. But coercive tends to be the stick approach to getting people to do things. So if you don't do it, then I'll do this. You might lose your job, or I might take away that bonus, or whatever it might be, or you won't get as much holiday, or some kind of coercive behaviour. And that power to punish, of course, can lead to unethical behaviour as well. But you see coercive power all the time, and I've seen it when I've been in jobs. I remember once being told that actually there was a lot of extra work going around, and even though we were all at capacity, we were told that if we didn't do it, then actually, we might, not directly, but we were told that actually we might possibly exist on a redundancy list. So it's that kind of pressure. It's not my present job, by the way. But you do get that kind of coercive behaviour, and I think most of us have seen it in one way or another. But you can also see that coercive power exists when usually that you end up with some kind of leader who also might be a genocidal maniac. So like Hitler, for example, he had a lot of coercive behaviour, coercive power. If you don't do this, then I will kill you. And that's an extreme version, but it certainly is a version of it. Interestingly, for those that have ever read any work by Machiavelli, there is something called a Machiavellian approach to management. Now, Machiavelli looked at, for example, the Romans and said that one of the ways they managed to manage such a big area was by they'd move into an area, and the first thing they did is they'd kill a few people, because by killing a few people, it tells everyone else that if they don't behave, then actually this will happen to you. And any of you that have read Margaret Atwood's book, Handmaid's Tale, there's a lot of coercive power within that book as well. A good book, by the way, if you have time to read it. So coercive power can be used. And coming back to the Machiavellian approach to management, so the Romans used that coercive behaviour, but a Machiavellian management is applied in a way that when you get a new leader into an organisation, what they can do is the first thing they do is they make redundancies, because what they're saying to everyone is, if you don't behave, then I will make you redundant as well. So it's a kind of a power that comes with that role as well. Okay, so those are the 5 main different types of power that French and Raven came out with in 1959. But the 2 main ones that you'll see within organisations are that power that comes with the position, so your office itself, the legitimate and coercive power that might come within that position that you've been given, and a personal power, so your actual personality, your knowledge, your expert knowledge that you particularly have that might give you a certain amount of power. Now, there are actually many different theories on power. For those that are into their social sciences, you have things like Foucault's investigations into power and theories into power. And Foucault would say there is power everywhere. So there's not just different types of power, there is power everywhere. So whenever you get any individuals that are interacting, then there is power. The way we behave our lives, the way we act our lives is because of that power that exists within that social context. And actually, those that have read Bourdieu as well, Pierre Bourdieu, he talks about power in this way as well, when he talks about his fields of play, and that the way we even behave, the way we act, our discourse is all to do with the power play within that field of play. So there's a lot of work that you can look at if you want to look more deeply in power. But for this particular module, we're really just looking at those main types of power and how they are used within the leadership area. One interesting thing, though, with power, you do get power is used in both management and leadership. And in one of my other modules, we were discussing the difference between leadership and management. Well, when it comes to power, both managers and leaders use power. But as I've talked about before, management, their role is more functional, whereas leadership is a less functional role. But both of them use power within those roles.